Holy crap, the NBA is back. Welcome to NBA Fantasy Overtime, guys. It is Season 2. This year, I'm not cutting it short. Well, maybe I shouldn't promise that. But we're going until I get tired of it at the very least. This is Season 2, Episode 1 of Fantasy Overtime. Going over NBA Fantasy stats in general. Who you should pick up going forward. Who you should let go and just avoid as much as possible. As well as our MVP of the past time that I didn't do a video. Anyway, so let's go ahead and get started with who's trending upward this week. Trending upward, we start out with Ish Smith, Detroit point guard, filling in for Reggie Jackson. That alone should be something you should be looking at. He's getting most of the assist numbers, as you can see in these two games. He's got 7 assists in his last game, 8 assists in the game before that. He's only owned about 48% in terms of how many people own him in Yahoo Fantasy Leagues. You should definitely keep an eye on him. His assist numbers so far in the first 5 games of the season are really consistent. The downsides, his field goal percentage really isn't great, but at the same time, he's kind of kept his turnover margin low. So if you're in leagues with turnovers, like I am, it's something definitely to keep an eye on. And really picking up a player who's averaging 10 and 7, really not that bad. Another guy maybe to keep an eye on, Sergio Rodriguez for the Philadelphia 76ers. He's kind of had similar numbers, but I think Ish Smith, with his surrounding cast in Detroit, is a better option to look at. Another guy to keep an eye on, Tyler Johnson. Young guy playing in Miami. He's only owned by about 40% of NBA fantasy leagues right now on Yahoo.com. You know, he's a point guard / shooting guard. He's averaging 15 points a game right now. 4 rebounds, 2 assists. I mean, them losing Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh has given him an opportunity to step up in a scoring role. One that Goran Dragic hasn't 100% filled just yet. And they definitely need a different option outside of Hassan Whiteside for production. As you can see, in having a big man being your only protection, it really isn't working for the New Orleans Pelicans. So keep an eye on Tyler Johnson. I think he's going to be a guy who's going to average about 15 points a game going forward, just because he's getting the minutes and he's getting the shots. So definitely keep an eye on him. Underperforming. Obviously, there's a couple of guys you should really keep away from, especially now with certain guys coming back. So Joe Johnson, he's playing in Utah for some odd reason. Yeah, and with Gordon Hayward out, you would think that he would be one of the main scoring options. Well, that is kind of true. I mean, he's getting a lot of, he's shooting on under 40% right now, but he only has 1 game over 20 points this season, and Utah's really having a hard time scoring. It might be a floor spacing issue, but at the same time, Joe Johnson has kind of been on that downward shooting curve for a while. At least the past couple seasons. So I would stay away from him at all possible. I mean, he's only averaging 13, 3 and 3, basically. So keep away from him. Another one to keep away from right now, mostly because he's just so volatile, and having a player that's so on and off is really difficult to hold on to in NBA fantasy. J.R. Smith, obviously Cleveland shooting guard, small forward. He's averaging about 10 points a game right now. In terms of 3-pointers made per game, if you're doing that stat in your league, he's averaging almost 3 a game made, which isn't bad, but the other parts of his stats hold him back, like, majorly. I mean, his field goal percentage can be atrocious a lot of weeks, so I would definitely shy away from it. Definitely shy away from it. The odd breakout night does not make up for the nights that he really just doesn't show up. The MVP of the video, not me. Bad joke. MVP of the video right now in fantasy, first 5 games of the year, Russell Westbrook. Good God, the man's averaging a triple-double over 5 games practically. You're looking at 34 points a game, 9 rebounds, 10 assists, over a steal a game, over 2 3-pointers made a game. Yeah, who would have thought? The only downside that he's had so far is he's been averaging about 6 turnovers a game, but a 10-to-6 ratio really isn't terrible. But they do add up if you're in a league that counts turnovers. he has, anytime you're in the same breath right now as Oscar Robertson, that's glorified air. It really is. So going forward, there's going to be weeks that it's going to be really hard not to pick this guy as an MVP of the week. But even with the likes of Anthony Davis going off in his first 2 games, he's tapered off a little bit. Damian Lillard, been huge for Portland, especially in fantasy stats. He really has. Russell Westbrook has been the best player of the bunch over the first 5 games. Anyway, this is my first video. If you liked it, definitely drop a like. You can follow me on Twitter at TheAnalyst32. Go ahead, subscribe to my video channel, TheAnalyst32 as well. And yeah, appreciate all the love. Going to keep doing this stuff going forward. Hope you guys are doing well in your fantasy leagues. And if you have any players you want talked about in terms of fantasy leagues, who should you be picking up? Definitely put them in the comments below, and we'll go forward from there.